We are a river city, a bold city, the First Coast, a place to create and to belong. Here, the sun shines a little brighter, and so do the people. We share a love for our region, a pride for Jacks, and a passion for the beautiful game, dedicated to giving everyone a sporting chance. Together, we will elevate soccer and sport in our community by lifting every voice. We are Sporting Club Jacksonville. We are Sporting Jacks.
Hello and welcome into the Sporting Jacks Report. I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up, what the U.S. women's national team learned during the She Believes Cup, how local teams are bringing trophies and glory back from the high school soccer playoffs, and a closer look at the Champions League in the round of 16. But we start with the big thing happening today, the kickoff of the USL Championship season. Season kicks off this evening with Colorado Springs as the champs and 23 other teams ready to take aim at the champions. There are a number of big storylines. Let's take a closer look at three big questions heading into the 2025 season. First, one new team in, one team out. Memphis 901 folded after they could not get a deal done for a new stadium in Memphis. So in comes Lexington SC, who moves up from USL League One. How will the transition be for Lexington? That will be one of the big stories to follow. The second big storyline will be if any of the USL Championship teams can make a run at the US Open Cup. In 2022, Sacramento made a run to the finals. The following year, both Birmingham Legion and the Pittsburgh Riverhounds made it to the quarters. Last year, Indy 11 advanced all the way to the semis. The bottom 16 teams from MLS will play in the Cup, so maybe this year we'll see if the USL can bring home a trophy. Finally, we'll see if there's another record-setting goal-scoring season. Last year, it was Nick Markanek who won the Golden Boot while setting a USL Championship goal-scoring mark with 28 goals in league play. Last year's second leading goal scorer, Lou City's Wilson Harris, is also gone, now playing in Israel. Tampa Bay's Manuel Arteaga scored 17 goals last year. He has a knack for finding the net. Perhaps this is his year to top the goals list. Also announced this week, the USL national television schedule. 11 games will be aired either on CBS or ESPN2, with another 22 scheduled to air on CBS Sports Network. Last year, 3 games on CBS were seen by over 1 million viewers. Every USL Championship team will appear on national television at least once. And again, the USL Championship final will be on November 22nd, nationally aired on CBS. Remaining games will be streamed on ESPN Plus and CBS Golazo Network. The first nationally televised game of the season is less than a month away, April the 6th, as San Antonio FC hosts Phoenix Rising. Now let's welcome in Mauricio Ruiz, who joins us from Portugal. Now let's start with a national TV deal. What strikes you about the USL's scope this year?
Well, Cole, you'd have to imagine that, last year was the first time on really national broadcast TV, and it was a huge success. You won many ratings battles out there. And also this year, you would imagine that they're going to double down. The networks are going to start putting more games, and the level of the games and the quality of the games, it's higher every single year. So it's a good product on TV.
In general, what are your expectations for how this league will be viewed this year going forward, considering all the talk around the future of the USL?
Well, it's one of those, right? Be careful what you ask for. You better be prepared, because there are a lot of eyes in the USL ecosystem in general. You talk about the Jägermeister Cup joining the USL League One with the USL Championship in its own cup matchup, which I think is going to be super exciting, and how League One teams will fare up. But also with this talk of the Tier 1, right? The Premier League in the USL that they announced as a proposed project for the next couple of years. So a lot of eyes are going to come into the USL, a lot of opportunities as well. And I think something's going to be really keen to watch on how teams will perform and players that are interested in coming into this league.
Good stuff. We'll be keeping an eye on it for sure. Let's take a closer look now at the Eastern Conference. Last week we featured the West. That includes the defending champs, as mentioned. But the East was really deeper and more competitive as a conference last season. Are you expecting more of the same this year?
Well, you are, but there's this kind of refurbishing of teams that happen in the USL, and it's a good thing because players are doing really well. They're getting opportunities. So you take a look at Lou City, right? A team that actually broke their streak of semifinal appearances when they lost to Rhode Island this past year. But they lost Wilson Harris, the leading goal scorer, playing in Israel. And they lost probably their biggest miss is going to be Elijah Winder. He was bought by a USL record transfer to the MLS for $400,000. So can they replace him? And they have replaced him with some, but that's going to be a big gap. And then we also have Rhode Island, which surprised everybody as an expansion club. And they were maxed out at the top. J.J. Williams, Dikwa did really well, but their midfield was so strong. And guess what? The richer keep getting richer because they get Max Rodriguez, a USL first-team player coming from Detroit City, to only add to their roster. So those two teams, they finished really well, especially Rhode Island. I expect a lot more from them.
And, of course, they'll be moving into a new stadium in Rhode Island coming up in the month of May. It's going to be an exciting season to be sure. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Let's turn our attention now to the Champions League. In the first leg, we saw in the round of 16, teams that received automatic spots in the round really outplay the teams who needed to win their way in for the most part, including a really dominant performance by Arsenal, 7-1 over PSV Eindhoven. What do you make of the results from the first leg of the round of 16?
Yeah, there were a lot of great storylines, right? You had the Madrid derby that did not disappoint, Real beating Atletico. You had the German derby in Bayern and Leverkusen, and that didn't disappoint, Leverkusen getting a red card. I'm really disappointed with the Dutch teams. I thought, I expected them to do a little bit better. Obviously, Arsenal thumping into PSV, but I thought Feyenoord, kind of getting Inter would have done a little bit better, and losing 2-0 in the first round in the first leg does not bode well for them.
Really sets up, if you can get any kind of a result as the away team in the first leg, you are almost home free. It would take a major effort in the second leg if you don't. For the teams that either played even or played close in that first leg, boy, it puts a lot of pressure on those home teams to get a performance in the second leg in advance.
Oh, it really does. And you had a few, right? You had Barcelona going down a man against Benfica in Lisbon. So they got to come back, and they got a 1-0 aggregate lead on there. And you got PSV Liverpool. Liverpool somehow gets the result in Paris when PSG really dominated the whole game. And the only tie here is Dortmund and Lille. And see how they're going to do in a 1-1 draw. And Lille going away to Dortmund and getting that draw. That's going to do really well for their confidence coming back home.
Now, the second legs begin on Tuesday, and after Wednesday, we'll know who has advanced to the quarterfinals. More from Mal coming up in just a bit. It has been quite a high school soccer season for the schools in our area. 3 girls programs won state championships, and 2 girls and 2 boys teams made it to the Final Four besides. Bartram Trail won the 6A girls championship. We'll hear from the Bears coming up a little bit later on in the show. Ponte Vedra's girls won the 5A championship 2-1 over Miami Lords. It's a repeat of last year's title for PV. The Sharks got an early goal from Katie DeVincentis. Just 2 minutes in, and a second-half goal by Lulu Kansunji was the difference. It's another title for Dave Silverberg's team. Speaking of another title, St. John's Country Day won a 15th state title as the Spartans took down the Pine School 4-0. Goals by Reagan Rupero and Victoria Sarka, and a brace by Cece Nowicki led the way. Mike Pickett's team does it again. Just an amazing performance by that squad. Coming up a little later in our youth soccer spotlight, we'll hear from the Bartram Trail girls in their dramatic overtime win. That was a major way to create some memories in the state finals, what it meant to them to bring home the trophy. Also this week, the Sporting Jacks USLW and USL League 2 pre-professional teams have begun to put together the squads. 4 women's soccer players were announced agreeing to join the squad. JU goalkeeper Pia Bozic, who has played for Slovenia, a pair from Marshall, defender Kaja Ekstrom, who represented Sweden in the U17s, and midfielder Luisa Travosis, who played for the U17s and U20s in Brazil. They're joined by Butler midfielder Amelie Derry, who has played with the England youth national teams. These players are getting the chance to play at a high level before going pro. The Sporting Jack squad is shaping up to be a good one. The USL 2 team added 4 men's college soccer stars to the squad for the summer. Former Bartram Trail and Flagler College forward Luke Williams, former Fleming Island star Noah Daniels, now playing at the College of Charleston, FAU defender Caleb Chapman, and UNC Wilmington forward Ethan Newsom are the first 4 to join the squad. We'll have more announcements coming in the next few weeks. The season kicks off in May. Come join Sporting Jacks at the 16th annual Stand Up and Stride Domestic Violence Awareness Walk on March the 29th. The event supports the great work done by the Hubbard House in our area. The event opens at 8 a.m. and the walk starts at 9. To register, use the QR code on the screen, and we'll see you downtown on March the 29th. Season tickets are now on sale for Sporting Jacks. You can see the different levels that you can jump in on, from student tickets starting at just $10 per match all the way up to premium seating and field seats. Those field seats are going very fast right now. Join the movement and be a part of the first professional women's team in Jacksonville. Go to sportingjacks.com for more information. Still to come, Becky Burley joins us as we continue our series sizing up each USL Super League team. What to expect from Fort Lauderdale United as the season continues. That's next right here on the Sporting Jacks Report. Now that the USL Super League has kicked off the second half of the season, you can catch every game streaming on Peacock. All 8 teams are in action this weekend, including the Florida Derby, with Fort Lauderdale United hosting the Tampa Bay Sun at 7:30. Spokane Zephyr welcomes Carolina Ascent at 9. Then tomorrow it's Lexington SC at DC Power at 2. And then the Dallas Trinity hosting league-leading Brooklyn FC at 5. Every game in the USL Super League streaming on Peacock. Let's go to the highlights from this past weekend. We start in Charlotte, where Carolina Ascent hosted Fort Lauderdale United. 28th minute, Carolina's Audrey Harding with a pinpoint cross to Mia Corbin, who puts it away. Ascent up 1-0. Second half, not 2 minutes out of the break. Watch the passing by Fort Lauderdale here. Kiera Locklear on the run out, and she picks out Jasmine Hamid. Puts it away. Hamid, the USL Super League Player of the month of February, equalizes for the visitors. Just past the hour mark, Fort Lauderdale gets aerial. This ball put in the air. First, it's Addie McCain who heads it back, and then Locklear puts it in. Fort Lauderdale, a big win on the road, 2-1 away with a victory for Fort Lauderdale United. The other league fixture to bring you, Lexington hosting first place Brooklyn. After Fort Lauderdale celebrates a chilly night in Kentucky, Brooklyn dominating possession, but Lexington was stingy, defensively turning aside all 4 shots on target. This was Lexington's best chance. The game ends in a 0-0 draw on a chilly day in Kentucky. One other game to tell you about, Tampa Bay Sun hosted Gotham FC out of the NWSL in a friendly. Each team scored 1 goal in regulation. This was Tampa Bay's. Parker Gowen scoring for the Tampa Bay Sun. Gotham won in penalties as they prepare to kick off the NWSL season. Let's take a look at the standings in the USL Super League. As it stands right now, Brooklyn on top, but suddenly Fort Lauderdale, hottest team in the league. They're up to second place, 4 points behind the leaders. Carolina Ascent and Dallas Trinity currently in position to make the playoffs. If the season were to end today, which of course it does not, Tampa Bay Sun certainly within striking distance of the postseason. All right, we now welcome in Becky Burley. Let's talk about first the impact of the U.S. women's national team losing in the She Believes Cup. What is Emma Hayes going to take out of what she saw on the field?
I think she's very pleased with the fact that she got so many young people and inexperienced players, a lot of experience against a very, very quality opponent. I mean, Japan looked amazing in that game. And the U.S., despite having some very young players, like one of your favorites, Lily Johannes, was matched up against a player for Japan that is, one of the legends of the game. And so I think despite the outcome, I think Emma's going to be really pleased with what that game did for the U.S. women's national team.
It's always great to bring home some hardware and have the cup, but this was really an opportunity to sort of stress test a lot of players who could play key roles as the ramp up to the World Cup in 27 approaches.
I like that term, stress test, because that's a really good point, because as much as you do in camp, it's not the same as playing a live game with a live audience with something on the line. And so it's a really, really great opportunity for some of these people to get some experience, but also just form some relationships. I mean, I think that's the one underrated part of this. And that's the challenge of a broader roster, is how do you create relationships both on and off the field with the players that are relatively new to this setting.
All right, now let's turn our attention to the USL Super League. We're taking a closer look at Fort Lauderdale United. What have you seen from the second Florida team so far this year, Becky?
They are certainly surging and against good teams, coming off a win against Carolina. I feel like they are just sort of putting the pieces together at the right time. And we've talked about this before, but I think that midseason break really gives teams a chance to evaluate and add the pieces that they think they need to, or just fine tune what they already have. I think this team, what I've noticed is when you've got a couple of goal scorers that are consistent, and right now they have two, I think that makes all the world of difference.
And it's interesting because you look at their form lately, they've been in the best form in the league, 4 wins from 5. They've closed to within 4 points of Brooklyn in the standings, and have really separated. For the first half of the season, they were hanging around the 4 or 5 spot. But it doesn't take much. This is, as we mentioned, the top 5 teams are in a pretty close bunching. Has Fort Lauderdale just found something? Have they figured out how to play together? What's been the key?
It's a good question. I think some of the rumors early around Fort Lauderdale were, did they have the right pieces in the right places? And I think whatever they've done since then, they've found the right combination.
Well, certainly something to follow as the rest of the season plays out. Fort Lauderdale now, as we mentioned, to second place. If you sign up for season tickets now for the USL Super League season, you'll receive a limited edition inaugural season scarf. Be part of the first pro women's team in Jacksonville. Go to sportingjacks.com or use the QR code on the screen for more information. Still to come, our youth soccer spotlight. They brought home another state title to Northeast Florida. We hail the Bears of Bartram Trail. That's next as the Sporting Jacks report rolls on. In the coming months, Sporting Jacks will be unveiling the inaugural kit, but you can already get official Sporting Jacks merchandise, from shirts and hats to sweatshirts and scarves. Head to sportingjacks.com/shop to get your official club gear today. Time now for the Youth Soccer Spotlight presented by the Bearded Pig Barbecue. And this week we're celebrating the first of 3 state soccer champions in our area. This time it's the Bartram Trail Bears. Bartram won the title in dramatic fashion on an Ali Fletcher header in the second period of overtime to win 4-3 over St. Thomas Aquinas. It's the 4th state title for Bartram under head coach Jen Rodriguez, who said the team didn't really find itself until the playoffs, but she sensed something special was going to happen the night of the finals.
The sunset was absolutely amazing. It was pink and just beautiful, and I was like, wow, felt like a little spirit there. Just that moment, I knew the corner kick when it came, it was like 30 some seconds, and I'm like, slow down, let's get one more chance. We're going to have one more chance. And then just to see the ball go in the back of the net, it was incredible. It was an incredible feeling. It was an incredible scene to have the girls, that excited. The bench is going crazy. They're dogpiling on the field. And it was just, for me, an incredible experience because of the work that we had to put in this season.
Oh, so the ball actually bounced right past me. And I turn around and, what Coach Jen teaches us is if the ball's like going past you, like you have to trust your teammates. And, that's what I did is I trusted, and I heard she was behind me. She was like, leave it. I left it, Ali Fletcher. And I turn around and I see this perfect right into the goal, perfect lob, like header into the goal. And it was actually the most excited I've ever been in my whole life.
This team honestly means so much to me in like so many different ways. I just feel like this is where I truly developed into the player that I am today through not only the program but the coaching, and just like I feel like I really gained my confidence at Bartram Soccer, and I also made the most best memories and made the most bestest friends that I will always remember.
It's been great. It's just I'm still can't believe it. Like, it doesn't feel real almost, but at the same time, it's just like we actually pulled it off when no one was expecting it.
We have a saying, it takes what it takes, and Coach Jen kept saying that throughout the season, so I think that kept motivating us as well.
Amazing finish. We'll be focusing on the other state title winners in coming weeks, Ponte Vedra and St. John's Country Day. Be sure to join Mauricio, Becky, and I every Tuesday night for the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour. Our weekly radio show covers the entire soccer world, including Sporting Jacks and the USL. Tuesday nights at 6 on 1010 AM and on demand at 1010XL.com. Still to come, with the Premier League back to action, what to expect from the games coming up right after us. That's next as the Sporting Jacks report rolls on. You can watch the Sporting Jacks Report every Saturday at noon on NBC 12, most weeks anyway. That's immediately before Premier League Soccer on NBC. Next week, we'll be on at 12:30. You can also catch us on demand on First Coast News Plus and the Sporting Jacks YouTube channel. Coming up right after us, it's Aston Villa hosting Brentford. Mauricio, this is an interesting matchup for a number of reasons. Number 10 against 11 in the table. Brentford is in 11th, but has a 10-goal differential advantage on Villa. Yet Villa has still got life in the FA Cup and the Champions League. And Villa have had some poor results against struggling teams lately. They lost to Wolves last month. They drew with Ipswich and lost 4-1 to Crystal Palace last week. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, we see this pretty often. One of those non-4-5 elite teams that get into the Champions League, that make a run into the FA Cup, something has to give. And it'd be difficult. And we saw with Newcastle last year as well. When they made it to the Champions League, they really struggled in the Premier League and FA Cup. Something has to give. And right now, the Premier League is giving because Champions League is not guaranteed. It's super hard in a Premier League team to get into the Champions League positioning in those top four. So they're enjoying their championship run, their Champions League run, and they're doing a great job. First, they got the win against Bruges in the first round, the first leg. And you can tell they're putting all their baskets into, all their eggs into that basket. And the Premier League is suffering from it.
Yeah, interesting, right? The league, listen, Villa's not winning the league. Liverpool's going to win the league, so they can, play for positioning or whatever. But they're probably going to wind up as a mid-table club. They do have the FA Cup as well, and a better chance for them to win the FA Cup than to win the Champions League as well. A lot of interesting personnel decisions that club has to make right now.
Well, and you're right. So, in this game against Brentford, at the end of the day, finishing 11th or 10th or 9th or 12th, it doesn't really matter because you're outside of those UEFA League spots that give you the extra money. So what does matter is continuing as far as you possibly can in the FA Cup, and certainly, which is the priority, where the money is continuing in the Champions League. So imagine if Aston Villa in the next round, if they get through Club Bruges, they get to host a Real Madrid at Villa Park. That's massive, and that's a priority, and that's a championship, and that's a trophy on its own for that organization.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how Villa navigates here the next couple of weeks or months. Mal, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again on radio next week. And we will urge you to join us on social media to keep up to date with everything that's going on around Sporting Jacks on X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and joining us on TikTok as well. We thank you for joining us here on the Sporting Jacks Report. We'll talk to you again next week right here on First Coast.